All right, well, we are live. What's up? Check it out. It's your boy DJL7, and today I have a very interesting interview. Now we actually, we have actually a lot of similarities, me and this guy, whether he knows it yet or not. But we're going to actually find out more. He's actually has his own radio, or he has his own TV type of station that he's got going on. I have my own channel that I'm doing. He's actually involved with political interviews from quite some time ago. And we also share some similar but different approaches. So very exciting interview right here. Ian Carpenter also, by the way, was involved with recent work to get AOC thrown off the ballot and, off the working family. So he's actually politically involved in actually doing things. But, very exciting. So let's get to it. First of all, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I know I did a quick, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ian Carpenter. I use my legal middle name because there's many Ian Carpenters, so Ian Snow Carpenter. And I'm a musician, a guitar and piano player, but I also have a business in Astoria, Queens, and I founded LiveONE TV, a media company, around the time I started listening to Ron Paul a decade ago. So quite busy doing those things, really busy.
Okay, before everything was clear, and now we're having some kind of like my unfortunately it seems like my wireless connection is low. It is what it is. Okay, we'll keep moving on. So the thing is that you're participating now in some the online activist interview. Sorry, there seems to be some delay. But how did you start off? What's the first thing that got you into the whole political thing?
There probably are things that I haven't had time to be able to share. I mean, maybe I think I'm still discovering, but it's true. At some point in my life, I found myself listening to people, listening to ideas. And I already am a pretty physical person, so I wasn't worried about listening to intellectuals. I didn't find intellectual thought to be a threat because I was already very busy and running around, even just doing sports and being active. So I listened and I heard an old man speaking who I had prejudged. I'll try and keep it short. Probably I don't know why I got involved in this kind of thing. I'm still trying to figure out, but I do identify listening to a guy named Ron Paul. And I had seen photographs of him and heard he ran for president because he did run for president 3 times. And I saw a picture of him and I had heard he was a racist. And I looked at the picture and I said, it looks like a racist to me. And I basically forgot about him. And it was years later, I saw him up on a stage with people that I had just particularly detested. I had grown to almost physically loathe people like Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich, Rudolph Giuliani, John Huntsman, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Santorum. And I saw this guy on stage basically surrounded by Wall Street chicken hawks. These are people who don't fight, they don't stand up themselves, but they get involved in deal making between government and corporations that involve tens of thousands of people being killed who are not even involved in the war. And I saw Ron Paul on the stage with these guys, and quite an elder man at the time, and deftly, as if skilled, in a very skilled way, using words, by the way. And he also seemed to be a good statesman. He seemed to politely beat the shit out of them. And he did it one by one, whoever they put him on. And they would try to catch Ron Paul with questions like, Dr. Paul, you've said that you'd no longer support giving foreign aid to Israel. Do you still stand by that today? And I mean, back then you could hear a pin drop. I mean, today this is no big thing to talk about. People look what's going on at Columbia and Harvard. It's like people talk about whatever they want. Tic-tac-toe. Anyway, that was big news back then. And Ron Paul very carefully laid out a way for America and Israel to go forward. and which was that the United States would not give foreign aid to any countries, okay, because we also give it to many, many other countries. And then he added the provision, we should only give foreign aid when a country has a catastrophe or a humanitarian crisis. In those cases, we should, I think, that's my opinion, help them immediately. And that's not an egregious violation of the Constitution when we send an aircraft carrier, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and we desalinate water because the country's had a typhoon, or we help them with tents and food. And then we help other countries. So it was Ron Paul's concept of honest friendship with foreign countries. It knocked me on the floor. And here was this frail elder man who managed to make that point home. And by the way, he was the only guy on the stage who had any military experience. We're talking 5 years in the US fucking Air Force, Ron Paul. Every single person on that GOP stage, including the sitting President Obama, never picked up a bullet, never picked up a pen to work in the armed forces, never cooked a meal or washed any pants or did any logistics works, none of them at all. And here you had the anti-war candidate, Ron Paul, advocating an honest friendship for foreign countries, a strong military, an honest military, a military that does defend our needs, and not a military academic industrial complex that's embedded with the censorship, industry. So anyway, I'm sorry I got, taken off on a rant there. Ron Paul rocked and rolled, and I caught it. I play rock and roll. I'm a rock and roll piano player, rock and roll guitar player. Ron Paul rolled. Now, I met him a couple of times in person. He's a pretty boring guy when you meet. It's not like we get along. I met him privately, and I would say we didn't get along. He didn't really know much about me or what I had done, even though a hell of a lot of it was for his campaign, and I didn't care. He's a bit of maybe a crusty old guy right now. He's 80, 90 years old. The poor gentleman had a stroke on air a few years ago. People say, is Ron Paul getting back into politics? Excuse me. He's given us a treasure, a treasure. Ron Paul, 300 years from now, people will say he saved the Constitution. He made people are not even interested in the Constitution. So this guy made an impact on me, and I thought, oh God, I got to get involved. I wasn't sure what to do. I said, I need an education. How about I take my experience with the microphone and camera, and I ask people who are doing these things in politics and attorneys, how about I ask them what they're doing? And that's a part of it. It may not be the truth, the full truth, but I'm attempting to tell you. I realized I was concerned. I cared about the country, and Ron Paul opened that door. And I don't have a lot of original ideas. I'm a great copycat, and I'm waiting to take everything I've assimilate it, and produce some original thought of my own. I want to do that. But this content that I've taken in is really quite powerful. It has to do with liberty and freedom. Many of these ideas were passed down. They've been, so to speak, passed down to me. And that's exciting, what it could look like to live in a free society. That's what I want to ask people. What do they think? Because you find out, even our politicians come into it, they've never even thought about that question. All right.
Have you served in the armed forces?
Nope. I didn't serve in the armed forces. Registered. I registered for it. Was never called up.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. So the thing is that after the you said that there was a time when you started to dislike certain politicians because you felt like they were corrupt, right? Was there what kind of led you to that feeling that there was that corruption going on?
Well, ultimately, to use the magic background,
was it personal experience or stuff on the news?
I think it was the idea of seeing hardship, people experiencing hardship that was the result of policies made by government officials. and seeing the government officials having an apparent disconnect from the hardship that they were causing for others. And so, you know, we have quite a few Congress people right now who are indicted for pretty, you know, serious crimes that probably you and I are never going to be involved in. You know, just less than 1 week ago, another congressman in Texas, a Democrat, and his wife, Henry Culler, and his wife, I believe, Imelda, both were indicted together for taking bribes from a country called Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan is a country that's been giving other Americans politicians too, who are famous, much more famous than Congressman Culler. So, you know, you can't get too serious about it because, DJ Elf, the people who can get most serious about it are the ones who really should be arresting these people. Now, maybe you and I should go and get a FBI, you know, pass the FBI test, and we'll go do an arresting of these people. But we need more of these arrests. It was just last week, or an indictment, excuse me, against Congressman Culler for being involved in taking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bribes in a conspiracy with his wife. And then we have the senator from New Jersey, Bob Goldbar Menendez, which is really outrageous because one of the guys he's involved in taking the money is like about 2 minutes walk from LiveONE.TV, and has a business right up here and right a few blocks from here.
Was Bob Menendez the guy who was hated for corruption?
Bob's been involved in corruption for a long time, but the most recent thing
I think it was indicted. Let me see, let me look it up. If it's the same guy I'm thinking of, the old guy with the glasses.
Oh, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Down on the Florida circuit, he would be considered a babe in the woods. No, he was just getting his graft game going. He's been perfecting it. Totally anti-Edward Snowden. You see how these people match up?
This guy, yeah. He got kicked out of office, didn't he? Wait a second. I remember this.
He's your congressman right now in New Jersey. Gold barred Bob. Take a look at those gold bars.
Federal corruption trial, Senator Menendez on track to begin next week. Yeah, I heard of this guy. Yeah, this guy's in big trouble. Supposedly, we'll see. Yeah,
sure.
He's still around.
He's a
he already
senator.
was indicated before, like years ago. Let me.
He's a senator.
Yeah, it's wild.
They have oversight of the CIA and the NSA.
Okay.
The Senate Intel Committee. I mean, this is the Senate. And there's another congressman right now who's in court being indicted for tens of thousands of dollars of campaign violations. George Santos. So, you know, we can't. There's another congressman. The FBI raided his house. They found $40,000 in his freezer in a box of pie crust. In a box of pie crust. So you begin to realize how unfunny.
You're doing relevant work. I like it.
You know.
Is it funny? Anyways, yeah. So the thing is that some people have, like, I heard before the word libertarian. I do think Ron Paul actually ran for libertarians once. Have you been following Ron Paul recently?
I didn't know he ran for the Libertarian Party. I think he ran as an independent the first time. Found out that he didn't get into the presidential debates, which is where a lot of people decide who they're going to vote for. You really have to get into that presidential debate. That's controlled by the Democrats and Republicans through the Commission on Presidential Debates, which, by the way, one Democrat and one Republican formed that Commission on Presidential Debates, which is a corporation. It's not a government institution. It should be disbanded immediately. They're the ones who took the role of debates away from the League of Women Voters. So the Commission on Presidential Debates is itself, I mean this literally, I'm not trying to, you know, drag the wrong words. The Commission on Presidential Debates is a farce, is a joke, and the people who formed it are a bunch of fuckfaces who don't give a crap about this country. It's pure, you know, uni-party politics between the two of them. But anyway, Ron Paul ran as an independent, I think, the first time. And I think his comment was, if you want to call me a libertarian, maybe that's okay. But I don't think it's how he defines himself. And there's other people who say, I'm a
Have you ever heard of
libertarian
something
with a
called the
small...
Mises Caucus?
Mises Caucus? Tell me about it.
Mises Caucus. Have you ever heard about that? No?
It sounds...
It's caused a recent... Okay. As you know, all groups have factions, and the Libertarians have a faction called the Mises Caucus that recently took over the leadership. And I think Ron Paul was part of that and on the side of the Mises. So I wonder if you knew about that, no?
No, but I'm always interested. I'm really interested in his career. I don't know that much about it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, it's just interesting. Okay, so let's move. This is really about you, not about Ron Paul, even though I do know that you feel like you're in some ways derived from some of Ron Paul's thoughts. Respect to that. Now, some people have a different ideology that they label themselves as. They'll say, oh, I'm a socialist, I'm a Republican, I'm a libertarian, whatever, right? Yeah. Do you have a certain ideology that you would place yourself in, as in terms of political or activism thought?
I'd say, yeah, I care and leave me alone. Or you could put, leave me alone, but I care. I don't mean to be cold about it that way, but I know it comes across as cold. So leave me alone. But that doesn't mean that I don't care.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. One of my friends said he likes the way Reagan said it, compassionate conservatism, even though I have big differences with Reagan, but maybe that's a term that, right, compassionate, but you also have some conservative values.
I'm not really sure. You know, I also spent... You know, rock and roll friends would laugh at me. You know, who wants to be anything like that? You got to rock and roll. But politics is sometimes about learning about words and political philosophies and ideologies. It's also like martial arts and military doctrine. We're also learning to get along with each other so we don't kill each other. This is another thing that really interests me in politics. My favorite subjects are war and foreign policy in that. And so a lot of it is so that we, know what the rules of engagement are.
So, you're a capoeira practitioner, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you the dancing rat?
I'm the dancing rat. All right. Well, that really is the question of the year. Who is the dancing rat? Damn good. I'll tell you, I wish I was the dancing rat, because that's some of the finest capoeira you've ever seen. That is a very well-known capoeista. I'll reveal it in our second podcast.
Yeah, that was...
I'll give you a hint, and I'll reveal it in our second podcast together, okay? As long as nobody forgets it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Here's the hint. The dancing rat was also one of the special guests in Wesley Snipes' Best Martial Artists of the 21st Century, the TV special that he did quite a few years back. Wesley Snipes was the executive producer of some program with like Best Martial Artists of the 21st Century. Well, one of those martial artists who was on that program is also the dancing rat, and is a famous capoeista in the capoeira world. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They had that freeze where they went upside down and did the handstand. That was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's hard to move around in that rat costume. I've worn the rat costume. I wear it all the time. I kind of like putting it on, to tell you the truth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can settle in with the bad self who I really am. Oh yeah, you haven't seen the end of that rat. So, that rat is the overlord of this place. It's the whole thing, and we didn't just build a rat for nothing. That's Ambassador Rat. I mean, yeah, it's a joke, but politics also has a tedious side.
Okay. Earlier, you did say that Ron Paul was a big influence. Are there other influences on your work in general?
Well, just to balance it right out, that I'm going to take it that you mean in developing a good, healthy philosophy for being comfortable in the political circles. I think that's what you mean, rather than just, something totally different than Ron Paul. But in that area of refining thoughts and ideas for how countries and local communities and individuals can have a better life, there are other people. Ralph Nader had a lot of, sometimes these guys are not, they have an entertaining side to them. But Ralph Nader could also sit down with you for 6 months and get into administrative details on how to improve government. It could get pretty boring, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he can make great 15-minute sound bites and whatnot. But it's important to have people who are real admin people, who really will get down with the numbers, or like accountants and whatnot, who really want to go beyond taking an idea like a cloud and make it a policy that works with people. Ralph Nader was very specific and very knowledgeable about every little element of government. And it's interesting, I found, how he differs from Ron Paul. For example, take seatbelts, for example. Ron Paul, and I'm going to speak, I shouldn't speak for him, I'll take myself. So as a libertarian, or even not as a libertarian, don't you think you should decide whether you wear a seatbelt or not? And so Ron Paul would say, give people the choice. Don't pass a law and tell them they have to wear a seatbelt. But Ralph Nader would say, no, you pass a law and you make sure that people wear their seatbelt. And if I remember talking about him correctly, I went, but wait a minute, now you just made a law telling people what to do. And he said, yeah, because you save lives. So that is a powerful decision maker. When someone tells you that if you pass a law, we're going to save lives. And I can tell I don't hear you right now, so maybe the connection is down on my end or your end, I'm not sure.
Now the thing is that you've been politically okay. He dropped out. Maybe okay. He tried to jump back in. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been having a poor connection here. It is what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on. So the thing is, now that we've got to learn a little bit more about yourself, right? Now we're going to learn about some of your techniques and tactics and your strategies, stuff like that, right? Yeah. So what do you think are the most effective things that activists can do?
Can you just catch the second part? I had a little rubber banding at the second half. Can you just say that again? DJ Elf, I think there's another connectivity. Okay, I'll drop down and come back in. I'll drop down and come back in.